But when I grew up in Iceland, there was like nobody there that, as a tourist, we would see occasional person on a bike with all their belongings almost just riding around the circle and camping by
Right.
the highway. Um, just yeah, but now when you're in Iceland, we also there's so much more going on culturally,
But it's still
and
also, Anna, it became independent from Denmark, I believe, in about 1944 or so. And since that
correct.
time, it is an independent country with its own government, its own structure, and it has become much more proactive in attracting tourists from other areas. So, like in Vancouver, we got flights directly to Iceland Air, I believe is the airline, fly directly into Reykjavik, or I don't know which airline, which airport do they use now? Is it Keflavik? Is that the
Yeah,
airport? Or
it's not
is
Keflavik. Yeah, they
okay,
just sometimes say Reykjavik because it's so nearby. It's only
right.
40 minutes away, but yeah, Keflavik where the base, the Navy used to be. Yeah.
Hello, my name is John Brink, and we are podcasting on the brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And my guest today, a very, very special guest, her name is Rosa Parker. And Anna is a lifestyle mentor, corporate coach, uh, who guides changemakers, leads authentic stories. Her approach combines story mapping, heart intelligence, IA, and lives in different areas that may well be New York or, for that matter, Iceland. And she travels between Iceland and New York. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, where are you today?
I'm in New York City right now. Yeah.
In New York City.
Hmm.
So, you have a very interesting bio. So, start telling us a little bit about where are you from originally, and then where did you get your education, where did you get your the idea about what to do, and especially to become a lifestyle coach and transforming storytelling and all those other things that are so interesting in your life.
Oh, thank you for the question. Yeah, I'm born and raised in Iceland, in Reykjavik. I was always I dreamt about this sort of a movie-like life in America, I guess. And when I was in my 20s, I came to the West Coast and went to University of Washington. I studied drama, storytelling. My life has always been about storytelling, I think. I used to make little books when I was a kid. A big dreamer. I was always like I had a whole world inside my and it didn't match the world that I was living in. I mean, I grew up in a wonderful home, but I always had a different vision for my life, and became an actor and a playwright after graduating from with drama at the University of Washington. I tried that out for over 10 years, like close to 15 years, and it was fun and it was difficult and it was um, you feel rejected often, which is probably the only profession in the world that you feel rejected when you don't get the job. It's just that you go so much in front of the camera or casting director, and it feels personal in a way because it's you. It's not you don't bring an instrument or so. I went through that, and then because I didn't always get the parts that I wanted, and I didn't always want the parts that I got, I started to write my own material and leaning more into storytelling, and I started to produce, and I wrote a solo show that I took to New York, and I lived this life, and I was became a single mom during that time, and then I leaned into marketing, another form of storytelling. I had moved from Seattle back to Iceland, and now I was back in Seattle with my current husband. And I got a job on Nordstrom, which is I don't know if you know Nordstrom.
Yeah, big retailer.
Yeah, big retailer
One
from
of the
the
biggest ones in the States after
yeah,
Walmart and all those kinds, right? Yeah,
right. Very sort of middle to high end
yeah,
family, you
expensive.
know. Yeah, and also affordable, both. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so I got a job there in the store as a shop girl in couture. I came in with product knowledge. I'd always been interested in somehow fashion and the whole storytelling around fashion, also, where the designers came from and how they worked and all that. And so a few months into that job, I heard about this open door policy, meaning you can knock on any door and ask for informational interview, which I did. And I went straight to the top to the president of Nordstrom, Blake Nordstrom. And I told him, I said, I love your company, but I don't have time to work on the floor. I have things to do. I think I can offer something in corporate. And I eventually, after knocking on a few more doors, he introduced me to a few people, and then I landed a job in designer marketing, coming in with that knowledge, the product, sort of the fashion knowledge, but no marketing knowledge. But I still landed that job, which started to, I was like, huh, you really can create your job. Like it can actually come to you if you know what you're all about and you know what you know and so on. And I did this for a little while, for 3 years. I was with them, and then we moved to New York, and I started to freelance in advertising agencies, writing copy and doing brand marketing, and then up to COVID. I was really in the market of luxury hotels and high-end goods, and COVID hit, and that my job evaporated overnight. And out of that, I pivoted yet again and really took interest in mentoring others. So I kind of went back to my theater life and was thinking, with this, marketing knowledge, how can I help other artists that are struggling, especially in these times, when during the pandemic. And so I started to bring out, like, what kind of story can we all tell? Where does this start? It starts internally and then it reflects. But I really built out a format for people to tell their own story. Like, I believe that your life is the story you're currently telling. And so I created a framework that I call EVOKE. Started with Evoke Your Identity, but it's an acronym for a few different elements of your life. And going through it is sort of authenticity test scale. It starts there to understand where you came from, what you want, what you're all about, goals, knowledge, how you show up. And so then I started to really work with artists. And out of that lasted for a couple of years during the pandemic. But then I took this framework and I started to work with other people, teams, individuals like yourself, women, anyone who sort of had this interest of changing their lives, taking more um, authority and agency in their lives by changing in your story internally. You start to see changes reflect externally, and that got me into coaching and mentoring. And I mentor at NYU, Tish, and then I coach individuals and teams, and that's where I am today.
Interesting. So, a couple of observations. Iceland, Reykjavik. Now,
Mhm.
I was born in Holland in 1940, so I'm nearly 85 years young. And so I came to Canada when 1965. Wanted to go to the west coast of Canada because I wanted to build a lumber mill. There's lots of timber there. Went to a big city and Vancouver. And for those people watching us from around the world saying, okay, we know Canada, British Columbia on the west coast, right? Right. And then Vancouver. So where are you relationship to Vancouver? Well, I'm 500 miles north of Vancouver, or 800 kilometers, which puts us in the middle, the center of British Columbia, north, south, east, west. So when I came in 1965 from Holland, the first time I went back to Holland is started with nothing really, and had planned a trip back to my family for Christmas, early December, and flew from Vancouver to Amsterdam, Schiphol, and what happened then, just before we flew over Iceland, we lost an engine in our jet. And so we had to land in Iceland at Keflavik,
All right.
the military, US military airport. Then, not anymore now, but then it was. And so, and we had to wait. This is 2000 and, or 1967. So this is a long time, nearly 60 years ago. So, and so they had to fly another plane up from Amsterdam. So that would take about 8-9 hours before it got to Iceland. They got another plane lined up. And so we then decided with 2 or 3 other people, maybe take a taxi to Reykjavik. And so we did. And so we really enjoyed it. Then came back to Iceland, got another plane, and then went back. So so that's been my connection to Iceland. The other thing that a lot of people may find interesting, I've gone back and forth to Europe numerous times, but I always find it interesting. Iceland is a beautiful space, very attractive, relatively small. It has somewhere around 400,000 people, maybe, in that area, and it must be all ice, right? No, it isn't. It's just the opposite. And it's extremely attractive. And then say, why do they call it Iceland then? Well, the way back way then they called it Iceland because they didn't want anybody more to go there, and so they called it Iceland. Where in comparison, Greenland, next to it, is a lot of ice, and it's huge. Now Iceland, what I find is amazing because of it has a lot of history. Used to be part of Denmark, now it's independent. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then used to be part of Denmark, but has its own language, Icelandic, very similar to Scandinavian mixture of languages, but a beautiful, beautiful area, very, very inviting to people actually, and so that's kind of what I know about Iceland.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Well, first of all, you don't look day over 60, so there's that.
Thank you.
um, yeah, and 67, you came to Iceland. There wasn't much going on there, but we still had, I mean, we've always had our beautiful landscape, and people have been discovering it more and more and more. Some of it with, helicopters and drones that are not very, the interior is not very accessible to all.
Volcanic.
Um, yeah, volcanic too, and um, cliffs and rivers and glaciers, and no, it's beautiful, and people didn't know. It was not. I would say 2016 when the tourism was at its height. But when I grew up in Iceland, there was like nobody there that, as a tourist, we would see occasional person on a bike with all their belongings, almost just riding around the circle and camping by
Right.
the highway. Um, just yeah, but now when you're in Iceland, we also there's so much more going on culturally,
But it's still
and
also, and it became independent from Denmark, I believe, in about 1944 or so. And since that
correct.
time, is an independent country with its own government, its own structure, and it has become much more proactive in attracting tourists from other areas. So, like in Vancouver, we got flights directly to Iceland Air, I believe is the airline, fly directly into Reykjavik, or I don't know which airport do they use now. Is it Keflavik? Is that the
Yeah,
airport? Or
it's not
is
Keflavik. Yeah, they
okay,
just sometimes say Reykjavik because it's so nearby. It's only
right?
40 minutes away, but yeah, Keflavik where the base, the Navy used to be. Yeah.
But it's so
Um,
independent
mhm.
and as a small country, and then a lot of people, including me, but I've flown over there so often that I appreciate it. But thinking Iceland must be all ice, it isn't. And then saying, well, then Greenland must be all green. No, it isn't. And then Iceland is relatively small. It has about something around 100,000 square kilometers, where Greenland is 20 times bigger than Iceland.
Right.
And it's still part of Denmark. And obviously, Trump wants to take it
Hopefully it
over,
will
but
stay
that's a
that
different
way.
story. Yeah.
Or
And
independent. Yeah, but
yeah,
not part of America, hopefully. Yeah.
yeah. So, but
Um,
the other part that I find interesting is the population of Greenland relatively low in comparison to Iceland.
yeah, I don't know the population in Greenland, but we are just under 400,000.
Right.
Uh, we've become, now when I grew up, it was mainly Icelanders, just native Icelanders, but now it has become more culturally diverse. There are people from other nations. We have a big Polish community, and there are people from sort of everywhere there, which makes it more rich culturally and interesting, I find.
Yeah. And then, so being far north, you have seasons, summer, fall, spring, but you have a cool winter uh, uh, compared to
Yeah.
what a lot of other people are used to. We're used to cold weather here in northern British Columbia. It can go to 30, 40 below zero in the wintertime sometimes.
Yeah. I find, yeah, we do have the seasons. They are a little bit, with an Arctic flair, if you will. Like our
Yeah.
summers aren't that warm. They can be beautiful and sunny, but also rainy sideways and windy and, you know, but I find it colder sometimes in New York because it's more
I do
humid
too.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just like goes through your bones. Like you get scared sometimes to go outside.
yeah,
Uh, the only thing about Icelandic weather is the wind, I would say. Everything else is just fine. It's
yeah,
not that bad.
yeah. I grew up in Holland, so until I was 24, and so people ask me about the weather in Holland. I said, well, to best describe it is the rain is colder in the winter than it is in the summer. So
Uh-huh.
lots of
Yeah,
rain
lots of
and
rain.
and
Yeah.
lots of wind, obviously.
And does it change very frequently? Like in Iceland, you might go into a grocery and it's sunny and you come out and it's snowy?
Yeah, not quite in Holland. It rains a lot. So
Rains a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So, but every country has its uniqueness, and what attracts me about, in particular, recently about Greenland and Iceland, having flown over there so many times in the 60 years I've been in Canada, and flown all
Mhm.
over the world from here, but in particular to Holland or Europe, and then always touching on as we fly over there, Iceland as part of it. So it's always something that has my interest. So that then being said, you are like me. I'm also a storyteller. Obviously, was born in Holland, and I'm an author, and do lots of podcasting. Podcasting to me is the new media around the world, and started getting involved in that part probably 6, 7 years ago, and first blogging locally, regionally, and then COVID came, and then all of a sudden everything changed. You couldn't do anymore what you were doing
Mhm.
before, so started our own studio here and started podcasting mainly around the world. So signed up as an organization called Podmatch, and that connects us to the rest of the world. And so I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years, and just expressing how powerful it is. Like one day we may podcast somebody in Australia, the next one maybe in New York City, somebody that's born in Reykjavik, Iceland. Can you believe it? And then other days somebody in Athens or wherever. It's an amazing, amazing. It's the new media, and then very,
Yeah.
very powerful. I'm not bragging about this, but just to express it to people how powerful it is. We're approaching 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and that usually means that if that's what you have on YouTube, the other platforms, in addition to that, you could have between 1 and 2 million viewers on any podcast that you do around the world. And that is amazing. And it's just still at the beginning, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great. You get to sit and talk to people and have conversations. Like that's your job now, huh?
Yeah, and do it on all kinds of topics, that
Yeah,
around the
it's
world.
beautiful.
So in your particular case, especially, I find it interesting that you worked on the floor of Nordstrom, one of the
Mhm.
largest exclusive retailers, primarily in the United States, but also there are some in one in Vancouver and other places in Canada. And you, as you worked and your specialty on more or less on the floor, one to the top floor, knocked on the door of the C, hypothetically speaking, and he said, "Okay, let's talk about my organization." So that took courage,
Mhm.
self confidence, because you didn't know what was going to happen, but I presume, and that's what I share with other people, is that the question is always for me, who am I? And then saying that, you have to build confidence, not overconfidence, but confidence that you're just as good as anybody else, and there are lots and lots of opportunities if you pursue them. And in your case, to get to sit across from the CEO of Nordstrom to exchange views must have impressed him, because he created contacts for you within the organization that gave you the opportunity to move to a whole different level of Nordstrom. And timing must have been right. The introduction must have created an interest on his part, and obviously the conversation kind of laid the foundation in a way for you to move further forward into other different directions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good observation. I think he had a bit of a uh, yeah, I thought he had almost like a chuckle. He thought it was kind of sweet and maybe a little bit funny too that I did that. But this was like I read into the policy of the business, like you can actually talk to everybody. And I think it, the confidence, coming from Iceland and going to the States and doing things that are often scary and very unknown. I've sort of learned how to be okay with the unknown. I've had so many days in my life where it's like the first day of school, if you will. You don't know what you go into. So learn how to be excited about the unknown. And it's it's also like I have this huge dreams even, and something takes me forward, if you will, even if I was less strategic at the time. I'm more strategic about, because now I understand the story that I am telling myself there. This is now 18 or no, 50, what this was, no. Oh, well, this was in 2007. when I knocked on his door. Yeah.
18 years
So
ago.
I've yeah. So I've come more. I've learned a lot. I've created my own framework out of this. But at that time, it was sort of a just like the Viking girl. What? How can I get there? I want to work in corporate. What does that mean? I want to have a grown up job. Um, what does that mean? How can I get through the door? And then that became like a school too. So what's great about these businesses that sort of hire from within, there's so much school in that because someone takes you under their wing and really teaches you, and then you might move over to another department, and it's a school on its own. And there's a lot of loyalty that comes from the employees that when they're treated like that, and loyalty is so huge. I mean, you want your team to have loyalty towards you, right?
So the interesting part that I find, Anna, is that you are a very good communicator, and you had to be, even at the time that you had the opportunity that he invited you to sit down with him and have a conversation, that took courage, because I don't know how much time you had to prepare for it, but you needed to have the self confidence to become a communicator. The reason that is important for me, as you can see over my shoulder, I'm I'm an author. I've written. That's my fifth book that I'm doing. Is $1 billion communication skills,
Wow.
and so the reason the title is so important, because it's not about how to make $1 billion, but what got people there, and why are communication skills so critically important. That, and it starts with, I believe, who am I? And saying, then creating confidence, and then becoming, and in some cases it's natural, but in a lot of cases it isn't. Not many people are natural speaking good communicators in settings, in particular, whatever happens ahead of you. It wasn't with me. What happened with me at the time, I was good in I was not a success story academically. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times in Holland. And then they said,
Mm.
my parents were beautiful people. Then they said, what are we going to do with this guy? And and some people suggested send him to the mentally challenged school. He said, no, we're not going to do that. So my grandfather was a master carpenter in Holland, and my dad worked in lumber. And so they said, at 12 and a half years old, we take him out of school, and then let's send him to my dad had a friend at a furniture factory. Let's send him to the furniture factory, and then let's make him a furniture maker. Then at nights he can go to school. So that's what I did at 12 and a half years old. And but the other part that had an influence in my life is that, being born in 1940, April in particular is special for me, because we were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945. And I was born in northeastern Holland, within 10 minutes from the German border. And so saw far too much I shouldn't have, and we shouldn't have,
Mm.
and gone through hunger and all kinds of other things that are difficult on a young person growing up, in particular. And so then still have PTSD relating to that period, and the inner child part. Got counseling for that actually in my 50s. So I always felt that, who am I? It made me different from a lot of people that I went to school with, like friends that I used to have, that then went on to college and university. But I became a laborer, and I'm proud of that today, but then it was kind of looked down on. And I kind of felt I had to start over again. And so going to Canada was my dream. The Canadians that liberated us made such an impression on me that I knew from that point forward, when I grew up, I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. And that was 80 years ago on April the 12th. And then when I came here, couldn't speak the language, didn't know soul, didn't have any money, started out with nothing, wanted to, my dream was to build a lumber mill. And when I came to Vancouver, they said, oh, the opportunities are in Prince George, 500 miles north, 12 hours, 13 hours. That's where I'm now 60 years ago. And yes, I did build my lumber mill and did all the other kind of things. But still, I had challenges internally. I was good in business, but not a good communicator. And so I was okay talking with 2 or 3 or 4 of my employees in my companies, but outside of that, I wasn't. Until somebody said to me, you should go with me to Toastmasters. I said, what is that all about? He said, well, it's about communication skills. And so I say, are you going to ask me anything? He said, no, you just sit there and watch. So I did that for during the meeting, and halfway through the meeting, somebody said, hey, John, tell us all about your life. And I said, oh my God, I'll never go back here. But I did. I stayed there for 10 years, and it gave me the confidence to start interacting. And about Toastmasters, probably as we speak, probably 500,000 people, if not more, are part of Toastmaster clubs around the world, mainly in North America, including my community here, probably has 4 Toastmaster clubs, and throughout North America and Europe in particular. And what do they specialize in? Communication skills, but in particular, becoming good listeners. And then the other part is thinking on your feet and articulating in conversations thoughts around questions and answers on your feet, and then doing specializing and giving presentations. So it changed my life. Came to the was in Toastmasters for 10 years, brought me to the highest level, being a distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level you can go in Toastmasters. Probably, I would say, as we speak, 10 million people have probably been part of Toastmasters. Less than 1% usually go to the highest level because by choice, that depending on how long you want to be part of it, that it helps you in your life. For me, I was a basket case. I was one of the worst examples of people that entered Toastmasters. I could have walked out on my hands and knees just to get away from it, but I stayed, and it changed my
Yeah.
life. And
Oh,
so,
good for you.
and then the other part that changed me is that I picked up in 1997. I picked up a book and saying, "Well, why am I different?" And I picked up a book in the store here, and it is Driven to Distraction, written by Dr. Hollywell, medical doctor, interesting person, has written 18 books and 5 on distraction. He is ADHD and has dyslexia. So do I. And when I read the book, I said, oh my God, that's me. And I had a date in the book, January 1997, and I wrote in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am. So it took me 5 years to go to my personal doc. So then I was 62, and so the personal doc had delivered our 2 daughters and was a personal friend. He said, "Hey John, why are you here?" I said, "I think I got ADHD." And so we checked it. Yes, I do. And so, but then it took me more time. So I waited 5 years before I went to him. I was then 62, and then the more I learned about it, the more I believe it's a superpower. And I started to write, do more speaking and presenting, and so and have written quite a number of books about it now. And again, as I said, it changed my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Finding that representation that reflects you is so can be very comforting, and you find a lot of answers in that. When you found these books about distraction, then you reflect you, and therefore there is a sort of a comfort and healing, and you and that probably awakes your curiosity, which is one of the keys also, as you know, in communication, to be curious about others and have that sort of a curiosity. Because I believe that curiosity is stronger than passion. Like, you can be passionate, but you're not passionate maybe every day, but you can be curious every day. And that's what drives you. And that probably helped you with solving how you learn, how you listen, and then becoming a communicator, starting with that, finding the representation of, which is like your story. Like, you had something about your story in that person's story that you connected with. And that's what we want as human. We love connection. So
And
finding that in books or in other people is, it can be very healing, and also just sort of a stepping point, like to help us take the next step. But it's often that we need that sort of a answer or a match in one thing. Oh my goodness, I forgot to put
yeah,
this up.
no worries. Yeah. So the other part that I found, Anna, is that, I so when I arrived here with my suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I didn't have very much. I had $25.47. I couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job. But what I did have is
Love that.
attitude. It's always been. I've always had a positive attitude, even when. Even in my own little world, and even if I was different, I always knew I was no less than anybody else. I had the passion. Whatever I do, I give it 125%. And I have work ethic. I work harder, even at nearly 85, than anybody else. Is that I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late. And
You
so
always think you're late.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So I'm always in a
Is
hurry.
is that, does that give you anxiety, or do you like it? Does it give you drive, or does it give you anxiety?
I'm glad you asked that, because that goes directly to your specialty. Is that
Hmm.
do I get anxiety because of stress and all the other kinds of things? No, I've been always under stress and always have had that part. So it's part of me. That's who I am. And
Hmm.
so, but I'm sure that it makes some people feel uncomfortable around me because I'm always in a hurry. And so, but personally, am I totally some people say you must be totally, how do you do all the things that you do, you must be totally stressed out. No, I'm not. I'm ADHD, and so that's that's who I am. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so to your question, no, I'm at peace with that because that's who I am.
Yeah, that's good, because there's what I'm learning a lot now with people that I'm working for. People think and find themselves to be late to life. They feel like they're behind, and I sometimes ask, like, to what? Like, who's waiting for it? Who's waiting for the project you're building, or who's waiting for you to get married or find your soulmate? Who's waiting? What's the pressure? And we really have lost the enjoyment of the journey. People are so focused on the goal, and there is no there. It's all a journey. So if we can just linger for a little bit, even if you have like the quality that you have of feeling like you're always late, as long as you can enjoy the journey, I think that's all there is really, of, because we are never going to be there. There's always another goal. So if we're constantly in a rush to get there, we're stripping ourselves of the enjoyment of life, the little moments, and really answering our curiosity and developing curiosity, which I think is like the biggest joy in life, to have curiosity, because it teaches you something every day when you have curiosity, and it keeps you on your feet, it keeps you engaged, and so. But it's interesting with being late. So it sounds like you have sort of, we have a place for that for you, but a lot of people are really struggling with the anxiety of it, and then we add another element of the, what I call like scrolling and mimicking, when people are on social media scrolling and then they mimic something they saw there, but it has nothing to do with them, who they are, or their story. So people are very, very lost today. They're very stuck and lost, and um, it's beautiful when people are able to take the time to tap in to understand what they really want and something about their roots and their story, and start to sort of map that out and live that, not someone else's script. And so
and
whether you have ADHD, you have that rush, you feel like you need to be rushing, it's all good. We're all going to have our quirks, and quirks. But as long as we are mapping our own journey, then until then, we're not living our own life, is what I'm trying to get to.
yeah, and so the point, and I agree with you, the point that I'm making is simply because of the challenges that I had. I always had a goal right from the time I was 5 years old, and I wanted to go to the land of my heroes, Canada. I knew I wanted to go there. That was my dream. And then the other part is that being not much of a success story academically, I always knew in my mind, although everybody said, well, he will never amount to anything and he's blah, 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 and all the, I didn't believe that in me. And obviously, my parents were very, very good. I knew I was just as smart as everybody else, but I didn't know why I had the problems. I didn't understand why. But, and I already then had that curiosity you're referring to. I was watching presentations that were being done by very successful people that either on radio then or in person. I would go wherever I could to listen to those individuals and trying to figure out what made them click and why. And so, and then then having the dream of build my own lumber mill, that gave me the goal to start with nothing. A
Mm.
suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, very little money. Wanted to go to British Columbia, went to the immigration office when I came here, flew into Montreal, took the train across Canada, 4 days, 5 nights. Can you believe it? That's a long way to go. So in any event, then I got to Vancouver, went to the immigration office. Couldn't speak English, so fortunately there was a German fellow that I told him what I wanted to do. He said, go to Prince George. That's where they're building all the lumber mills. So that's what I did. And I believed always that I could do it, but I still had the challenge, who am I? And why
Mm.
am I different? And so I
Mhm.
very early was successful, and within 10 years I had a company that is now, and I'm not here to brag about my companies, but I've been quite successful. And then, but I still did not realize that I'm a natural storyteller. That's who I am. But it took Toastmasters to unlock that confidence that standing on my feet, I could interact. And going back to my schooling, I was always good at numbers. I was very good at writing, but not at reading, hence ADHD and dyslexia. And so, so then I started writing books. And people talk to me and say, hey, John, you have such an interesting life. You have to write a book about it. So I wrote a book, Against All Odds. And it took me 20 years to start. Writing books is not easy. And
No.
so I stopped, and then I knew 6 years ago, if I didn't do it now, it would never happen. So it took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. And then from there, and then I wrote another one as ADHD Unlocked. I feel,
Lovely. Beautiful. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. I feel I had an obligation to do that, to talk about in particular ADHD, so, but, so probably I'm a late bloomer. It took me to being diagnosed ADHD when I was 62. So it took me 50 years from the time I left school at 12 and a half and became a laborer. I like it now. And until I found that it was ADHD, I call it a superpower. And so, but in spite of it all, I always was, looking back, the foundation of my life has brought me where I am today. And I'm not feeling that I'm late. I'm just the fella that is, I'm always in a hurry, and that's what I
Yeah,
do. The other ones that I should tell you the picture of is this one here, living young, dying old. It's a picture of me actually. Uh,
that's
I'm
great. Yeah.
I'm competitive body. I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America, actually, and
Oh, wow.
and so going to the gym, doing diet, and then enjoying life every day to me is special, and especially living
Yeah,
here in North America, flying around. If I look out the window, I say it's paradise. Compared
that's
to
beautiful.
what else is going on around the world. So, but
Yeah. We have the
you,
fitness in common. I was aerobic champion.
I
Um,
like it.
in '93, I won Icelandic championship in Iceland, and I went to Tokyo to compete in the World Cup.
Oh, I love it. Is that a book that you wrote?
No, I mean, listen, I have a couple of half finished books here, but I am on a quest now to finish in 25.
Good.
So there will be. Yeah.
So what I will do is we will get your address, and I'm gonna have the 4 books here that I've done. The 5th one comes out in July. It's pretty
Okay.
much done, and you have such an interesting story to tell, especially with all the other things that you have done, and your specialty is a very, very important one that I can relate to, obviously, and to feel that we both are storytellers and to share it with others, I believe is very, very important, especially for all the reasons that we giving. So people are a lot of times respectfully negative, and or saying, that I would like to do this, but I can't because of this, that, and the other thing. I say,
Mhm.
no, you must have dreams. You must have look forward to what can I do. And the foundation for me is attitude, passion, work ethic. That's who I am. I avoid, if you're going to be negative, don't come close to me. And so, and that's what I still do now. I still have different companies and that I do. I still look forward to growing those. But in particular, what is special to me, every day is special.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But people have a lot of fear. So that's what stops them. Even if they create the fear. There is no fear. It's all internal.
Yeah,
But so we are our worst enemy often when we're trying to pursue something and we stop ourselves as human beings. So that's why the mapping of the story is so vital. So you understand where you came from, where you want to go, what you're taking with you, what's your knowledge, and dreams and all that. All the answers of what you want is internally. And that's where also I use, you mentioned in the beginning in the introduction, heart coherence. So if we activate the intelligence of our heart, there are a lot of informations in that. Breathing into the heart, connect with your brain, get everything coherent, and you start to get different answers than externally. It's all internal. That's
exactly.
where your answers are. Education, you see, yes, but what's good for you, what works for you, what you want, who you are, that's all internally. And answers to guidance of the next steps and so on. I mean, it's great to work with coaches, obviously, I am one, but I encourage people to work on their own, to find their own. I don't ask people to work with me forever. I help them to become independent of working, finding the techniques within them, and I find that's very powerful that we can access that. It's just not talked about enough, is the world has come so external, and like I said earlier, there's so much comparison. People see an image of something and they think they want it. There might be nothing in that. There might be no joy in that, or it's just an image. But you can create your own image if you just do your own story, own story mapping, own storytelling. Step into the story that you want to tell, you want to live, and you'll have your own glossy images of what you want, right?
And then the other part, Anna, probably is, and you and me are similar in terms of storytelling, is that we have the history of all the ups and downs that taught us to the way of the
Hmm.
things that we are communicating with other people. And that's why I believe, from my perspective at least, I'm feel so positive about podcasting and subsequently writing books as well, is to help tell the story that hopefully will become an inspiration for others. And I've had that numerous times that people contact me and saying that, uh, my story was an inspiration to them, and that to me is very, very important. Not so much as, but what was the guiding foundation for me and still is today is attitude, passion, work ethic, and then live healthy and fit. Fitness, mentally, physically, diet, very, very important. Nothing complicated in my life about it. I'm lucky my wife is a vegetarian. And so I was not always that good at it, but I got a close call where I had a case of diverticulitis that breached, nearly killed me in 2008. That gave me a boost to have to become more serious about physical exercise and get a trainer. And so that's what I have done now for the last 16 years. In the process, have been bodybuilding and physique, and competed Northern BC, came second bodybuilding, third in physique, qualified me provincial, and then qualified national in the Arnolds. And now again at 85, I'm still training to go to the Arnolds in 1986 when I'm 85 or 86. So the
Wow.
point is that everything is possible. Stay
Right.
positive, and then take care of your body, your mind, your physical body, and the diet, and all of those things, because there is only one of them that you have. And especially that's why I wrote this book. That, and it's not about John the bodybuilder. It's not about that. It gets me to the gym, but basically what I'm saying, it's at even in your mid 80s, it's about quality of life, and there is no reason that you can not stay fit and healthy, and start slowly. A lot of people say, I know people that are 40 years old or 45 say, no, I can go to the gym, it's old now, or whatever, and say, no, you're not. So you must keep dreams, you must stay positive, and then move forward and do all the things that you're suggesting. And that's what makes you so popular as a coach, and that's, I believe, why you have to write, at least in my opinion, respectfully, write books about it, because you have the story.
Yeah, thank you. I there definitely have been in the works, but I'm now on an actual strategy, so I'm close to finishing one of them, and the second one is behind. So at least one in 25, and then maybe the following year.
Yeah.
I'm also
So
working on an app, so I have a lot of projects, a
yeah,
lot of responsibilities.
yeah.
Uh, but it's one-on-one that I really love working with people, but it's a special connection. But sharing the message in for more people, like you say, in books and working groups, it's vital if you have something to share. I think so.
And
You
especially
can help people.
podcasting in the media, as a media, it is amazing, immensely powerful. It's still at its infancy, in my opinion, and that's what I like
Mhm.
about it. I can go around North America to give presentations. I do that too, but it takes me 2 days. I don't have, respectfully, the time in a lot of cases. And not saying that I'm so important, but then if I podcast sitting here with you, that reaches a lot of people around the world, immensely powerful, and it's still only
Mhm.
at its beginning. And then the books are important, in my view, in combination with that. And, so it's a whole new beginning that hopefully gives inspiration to others. Now, for you, how do people contact you if they want to look at if they can possibly acquire your advice?
Yeah, thanks. Through my website, annarosaparker.com. So through my full name, annarosaparker.com. Also on LinkedIn under my full name. And I have an Instagram I'm trying out under my EVOKE Method. So I also have an Instagram account. It's just personal. People can require to be my friend there, but I would say through my website and LinkedIn is best to contact me.
Okay, and so what I will do, I will sign the books for you. Scott will get the address from you, and we'll send them to you. And so share with me, and then hopefully, if you can give me comments on it, that helps me in terms of sharing it with others. This podcast will be released today, this afternoon, sometimes, and so we, release them fairly, very quickly, and as is, so then share it with the world.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you for the conversation. Mhm.
Thanks again, Anna. It was an amazing podcast. I look forward to your book as well once you got them finished. Hopefully send me a copy of it. And then
Will do.
as we go forward, maybe in another 6 months or so, I'm going to make sure we stay in touch and do another podcast.
I'd love that. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Anna. I appreciate it. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.